Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're looking into something really quite startling that happened just recently.
That's right. We're talking about the collision involving the Mexican Navy's tall ship, the Cuauhtémoc, and the Brooklyn Bridge. A pretty shocking event.
Absolutely. And for this deep dive, we've pulled together information from quite a few places.
Yeah, we're looking at reports from outlets like NBC New York, The Independent, the Virgin Islands Consortium, Newsweek, People.com too.
And we've also got some info from the ship's Wikipedia page, even a Reddit thread discussing it, plus some initial summaries floating around.
Right. The goal here is really to unpack it all, sift through the detail.
Exactly. We want to get past the headlines, pull out the key facts, maybe some surprising bits, and just give you a clear sense of what went down, why it's significant, and what the investigations are saying so far.
Okay, so let's set the scene. It happened Saturday, May 17th, 2025, just before 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time.
And the location was the East River, right here in New York City. The ship was actually leaving Pier 17.
Correct. And the ship itself, the ARM Cuauhtémoc, ARM stands for Armada República Mexicana, Mexican Navy. It's quite something. A three-masted bark.
A beautiful sailing ship used for training. It's even called the Ambassador and Knight of the Seas. It was on a global goodwill tour.
It really is. Built back in Spain, 1981, commissioned in 82. A piece of history itself.
And it wasn't empty. How many people were on board?
Sources say 277 people, mostly naval cadets, officers, crew members. They'd been docked in New York since May 13th, even offering public tours, really living up to that ambassador role.
So this stop was part of a much bigger trip.
Oh yeah, a huge one. Planned for 254 days, visiting 22 ports in 15 different countries. Iceland was apparently next on the list. And, it was flying a large Mexican flag, too.
No.
Very visible.
Okay, so that's the ship. Now, the other element, the Brooklyn Bridge. Iconic.
Iconic and old. 142 years old in 2025. Main span's almost 1,600 feet.
And the crucial detail here, the clearance. How high is it?
Well, the listed vertical clearance is 127 feet, maybe closer to 135 feet right in the center, depending on the tide and exact spot.
Right. Now, the collision itself, how did it happen? It wasn't moving forward, was it?
No, that's one of the really strange parts. Reports say the Cuauhtémoc was actually moving in reverse when it hit the underside of the bridge.
In reverse? Wow. And people saw it happen.
Oh, yes. Eyewitnesses reported hearing these really loud snapping sounds. One description I saw, I think from NBC New York, said it sounded like a big twig breaking.
Oof. That gives you a chilling image. And the damage to the ship must have been significant.
Devastating. All three masts snapped. These things are tall, roughly 147 feet, the main mast, maybe even 160 feet. Some sources said up to 153 feet above the water.
All three. You can see that in videos.
Yeah, videos show them going down, like one by one, just breaking off. Rigging collapsed, debris fell onto the deck. It looks really bad.
And tragically, it wasn't just damage to the ship.
No, this is the worst part. 2 crew members lost their lives.
Just awful. And injuries.
Initial reports said 19 injured, 2 critically. But those numbers went up. Later updates put it at 22 total injured. And critically, 11 of those were in critical condition, 9 stable.
11 critical.
Yeah.
That's terrible. The FDNY said they took 27 people for treatment altogether.
That's right. And it sounds like the most severely injured people were actually up on the masts when the collision happened.
Oh my God, up in the rigging.
Yeah. People nearby saw sailors, dangling from harnesses way up on the broken masts for maybe up to 15 minutes before they could be rescued.
Unbelievable. It's amazing nobody fell into the river.
Truly remarkable, given the circumstances.
So the big question then, why? What caused this? What are investigators saying?
Well, the preliminary cause seems pretty clear, or at least the initial focus is clear. Mechanical failure.
Mechanical failure. Leading to what exactly?
Loss of power and loss of steering. The NYPD's Special Operations Chief stated it pretty plainly. The pilot lost power of the ship. Mayor Adams also called it a mechanical mishap.
Losing power and steering on a ship that size.
Exactly. On a vessel like that, losing power likely affects propulsion, steering, everything. Leaves it adrift.
And adrift in the East River. That's not good.
Not at all. Those currents are strong. Very strong. And they're believed to be a major factor here.
So the idea is the ship lost power and the current just took it.
Precisely. One official was quoted saying it was the current that took it onto the bridge, pulled it backward right into the span.
Was there any assistance nearby? I thought I read something about a tugboat.
Yes, there was a tugboat close by. Its exact role, though, is still part of the investigation.
So it could have been helping it leave? Or maybe responding to the power loss?
Could be either. Was it already assisting with departure? Or did it rush over when the Cuauhtémoc got into trouble? That's something the NTSB will be looking at very closely.
Right, the NTSB, the National Transportation Safety Board, they're involved?
Oh, yes. They've launched what they call a GO team. They're leading the main investigation from the U.S. side.
And the Mexican Navy.
They're doing their own internal inquiry as well. They've promised to be transparent about it.
So investigators are looking at the mechanical failure, the currents, anything else?
Definitely. They'll examine potential navigational errors, the specific environmental conditions at that exact moment, the whole picture.
This is happening just months after the Baltimore Bridge collapse, too. It makes you think about bridge safety.
It really does. And here's something quite pointed. Newsweek highlighted that back in March 2025, right after the Key Bridge incident, the NTSB actually recommended vulnerability assessments for 15 bridges right here in New York and New Jersey.
Including the Brooklyn Bridge.
Including the Brooklyn Bridge, yes. Assessing the risk of vessel collisions.
Was anything done?
Well, the NYC Department of Transportation said they were reviewing the recommendations. They did note, though, that the East River doesn't usually handle the kind of massive container ships like the Dolly in Baltimore.
But this shows even a different type of vessel can pose a risk, right? Especially if something goes wrong mechanically.
Exactly. It raises that question about whether the risk assessments are broad enough, Do they account for these kinds of maybe less common, but still possible scenarios?
Okay, let's talk about the immediate aftermath. What happened to the bridge itself?
Thankfully, the initial word is good there. Preliminary checks found no structural damage to the bridge. That 142-year-old structure is apparently, as some engineers put it, grossly overbuilt compared to modern standards.
That's a relief. So it reopened fairly quickly.
Yes. It was closed for a bit, just to be safe, but reopened to traffic later that same night. And crucially, no one on the bridge was hurt.
And the emergency response on the water sounded like it was fast.
Very fast.
Aw.
FDNY, NYPD, the Coast Guard all deployed Marine units, rescue teams really quickly.
Getting the injured sailors to hospitals.
Right. They were taken to Bellevue and other local hospitals. Divers went in the water as a precaution, standard procedure, but like we said, no one fell in, thankfully. They set up a casualty collection point at Pier 16-2 to manage everything. Very organized response.
And the Cuauhtémoc, the ship itself, where is it now?
After hitting the bridge, it drifted and bumped into a pier over on the Brooklyn side. Then tugboats moved it over to Pier 36 on the Lower East Side of Manhattan.
Okay, so it's secured there.
Yes, it's being guarded. The Coast Guard set up a 50-yard safety zone around it. Reports said about 250 people were still on board right after the incident.
And that huge goodwill tour, I assume that's completely on hold now.
Completely halted. That whole 254-day journey, 22 ports, 15 nations, it's obviously stopped. The Mexican Navy's focus now is on their people, the injured, assessing the ship's damage, and getting crew and cadets back to their families.
Such a shame. I saw a note from Sailforth 250 expressing disappointment, too.
Yeah, they were hoping the ship could join their big event planned for July 4th, 2026. So ripple effect there as well.
And what about official reactions? From the city, from Mexico?
We heard from Mayor Eric Adams here in New York, and also from Mexico's President Claudia Sheinbaum. Both expressed deep sadness about what happened, especially the loss of life and injuries, and offered support.
So, pulling this all together then, it looks like a tragic accident, starting with probably a mechanical issue.
Yeah, a suspected mechanical failure on the ship.
Which then met the powerful East River currents.
Creating this unavoidable collision with the bridge.
It's just a stark reminder, isn't it, about the risks involved in navigating busy city waterways and the need for constant vigilance, for safety checks on ships and on our infrastructure.
Absolutely. And beyond the mechanics and the investigations, you just keep coming back to the human side of it.
Definitely.
2 people died, many others seriously hurt, on a ship that was meant to be spreading goodwill, training young sailors, seeing those images of people trapped high up on the broken masts. It really drives home the human cost.
It really does. So maybe the final thought to leave you, our listener, with is this. We heard about those prior NTSB recommendations for bridge checks, and we know about the suspected mechanical failure, the role of the current. What does this tell us more broadly about keeping our infrastructure safe, about how ships and old structures interact in our crowded cities?
Yeah, and what questions still stick with you? After hearing all this, what parts of this whole unexpected tragic event still feel unanswered for you?